Have you ever wondered how the Israel-Palestine conflict started? From the ashes of history, the roots of this intense conflict can be traced back to the late 19th and early 20th centuries. It was during this period that the Zionist movement began to gain momentum. Zionism, rooted in the desire of Jews for a homeland of their own, was a response to centuries of persecution across Europe and Russia. This longing for a homeland was encapsulated in the Balfour Declaration of 1917, when the British government publicly supported the establishment of a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine. Yet, the territory in question was not a blank slate. It was inhabited by an Arab majority who viewed the increasing Jewish immigration with growing unease. This situation was exacerbated under the British Mandate of Palestine, a period marked by political tension and occasional violence. The British authorities, caught between the promises made to both Jews and Arabs, struggled to maintain order and fulfill their obligations to both communities. Fast forward to the aftermath of World War II, a conflict that bore witness to the horrors of the Holocaust. The plight of the Jewish people led to an influx of Jewish immigrants into Palestine, further heightening tensions. The United Nations, in an attempt to address the issue, proposed the division of Palestine in 1947. This plan allocated separate territories for the establishment of an Arab and a Jewish state, with Jerusalem under international administration. However, this proposal was met with resistance from Arab nations who contested the division of a land they considered rightfully theirs. The Jewish community, on the other hand, accepted the plan, leading to the establishment of the State of Israel in 1948. This marked the beginning of the First Arab-Israeli War, and set the stage for a conflict that still echoes loudly today. As we see, the seeds of discord were sown early, setting the stage for a conflict that has lasted for more than 7 decades. So, how did the birth of Israel lead to the First Arab-Israeli War? Well, let's rewind to the mid-20th century. The year was 1948, and the world was witnessing the creation of a new state, Israel. This was a momentous event, a fulfillment of the Zionist dream of a sovereign Jewish homeland in the land of their ancestors. The United States and the Soviet Union, two superpowers of the time, were quick to recognize Israel, giving it a significant boost on the international stage. However, this newly formed nation was surrounded by Arab states, many of which were not eager to welcome Israel into the neighborhood. The recognition of Israel by world powers was met with violent reactions from its Arab neighbors, leading to the outbreak of the First Arab-Israeli War. The war was a tumultuous period with several Arab nations banding together to fight against Israel. The conflict was filled with battles, diplomatic struggles, and a great deal of human suffering. One significant consequence of the war was the displacement of Palestinians, an event often referred to as the Nakba, or catastrophe in Arabic. Hundreds of thousands of Palestinians were forced to leave their homes, sowing the seeds of a refugee crisis that persists to this day. The war eventually ended in 1949, with Israel not only surviving the attacks from its neighbors, but also expanding its territory. This war set a precedent for the conflicts to follow, and the unresolved issues from this period continue to fuel tensions in the region. So, there you have it. The birth of Israel was a significant event in the history of the Middle East, leading to the first of many Arab-Israeli wars. The displacement of Palestinians, the territorial disputes, and the political complexities that arose from this period laid the groundwork for the protracted conflict we see today. The birth of a nation and the first war marked the beginning of a protracted and complex conflict. Scene script. Fast forward to 1967. What happened in the Six-Day War and why does it matter? Picture this. It's mid-1967. Tensions are on the rise between Israel and neighboring Arab states, especially Egypt, Jordan, and Syria. These tensions culminate in a rapid-fire conflict, famously known as the Six-Day War. This war, despite its short duration, has profound and lasting effects on the region. The catalyst for the conflict is a series of geopolitical maneuvers, including Egypt's expulsion of the United Nations Emergency Force from Sinai and its subsequent blockade of the Straits of Tiran to Israeli shipping. Israel, feeling the weight of these actions, decides to launch a preemptive airstrike on Egypt. The war quickly spreads, with Jordan and Syria entering the fray against Israel. The war is intense but brief. In just under a week it's over. But the aftermath is far from simple. Israel emerges victorious and significantly changes the map of the Middle East. It occupies the Sinai Peninsula, the Gaza Strip, the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and the Golan Heights. These territories still remain contentious points in the ongoing Israel-Palestine conflict. The Six-Day War also leads to a significant resolution by the United Nations Security Council. Resolution 242, passed in November 1967, emphasizes the inadmissibility of the acquisition of territory by war. It calls for the withdrawal of Israeli armed forces from territories occupied in the recent conflict, and for respect for the sovereignty, territorial integrity, and political independence of every state in the area. This resolution, however, is interpreted differently by the involved parties, leading to further disputes. Israel views it as requiring a withdrawal from territories, but not all the territories, while the Arab states and the Palestinians view it as requiring a withdrawal from all the territories occupied during the war. The Six-Day War drastically altered the dynamics of the conflict and set the stage for future negotiations and disputes. The war and its aftermath continue to influence the political, social, and cultural realities of the Middle East, and indeed, the world at large. The word Intifada might ring a bell, but what does it mean, and how did it shape the Israel-Palestine conflict? Well, the term Intifada translates to shaking off in Arabic. It refers to two significant uprisings that took place in the late 20th century. The first Intifada broke out in 1987, sparked by growing Palestinian frustration over Israeli occupation. It was characterized by civil disobedience, strikes, boycotts, and, unfortunately, violence from both sides. The second Intifada erupted in 2000, following the failure of the Camp David summit. This uprising was far more violent, leading to a substantial loss of life and a further breakdown of trust between the Israelis and the Palestinians. Amidst this turmoil, there were efforts to broker peace. The most notable was the Oslo Accords, signed in 1993. This agreement established a framework for future negotiations, aiming to resolve the conflict within 5 years. It also led to the creation of the Palestinian Authority, providing a level of self-governance for the Palestinians. However, the Oslo Accords faced significant opposition from both sides. Many Palestinians felt the agreement didn't go far enough in addressing their aspirations for an independent state. On the other hand, many Israelis were concerned about security issues and the recognition of Israel's right to exist. Despite these challenges, another significant peace effort was made at the Camp David summit in 2000. But the talks collapsed without an agreement, leading to the outbreak of the Second Intifada and a hardening of positions on both sides. The aftermath of these events has been profound. Trust has eroded, with each side blaming the other for the failure of the peace process. The conflict has become more entrenched, with a two-state solution seeming increasingly elusive. The Intifadas and the peace process have left an indelible mark on the conflict, with peace still remaining elusive. We've traced the conflict from its origins to the present day, but where do we stand now, and what does the future hold? In recent years, the Israel-Palestine conflict has been marked by a significant surge in violence. A car rammed into a group of tourists in Tel Aviv, killing an Italian citizen and injuring several others. The driver, a Palestinian citizen of Israel, was shot and killed by police. 2 British Israeli women were also shot and killed near the occupied West Bank by Palestinian assailants. This surge followed armed Israeli police raiding the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem's Old City, leading to clashes with young Palestinians. The international community is not a mere spectator. The United States, for instance, has been a crucial player. Interestingly, American sympathy for Palestinians is at an all-time high of 31%, while the proportion not favoring a side is at a new low of 15%, according to a Gallup poll. The Democratic Party in the U.S. in particular has seen a significant shift in sympathy toward Palestinians, with 49% sympathizing with Palestinians compared to 38% sympathizing with Israelis. However, support for the State of Israel remains strong overall, with 68% of Americans viewing Israel favorably. The polarization between Republicans and Democrats on this issue is increasing, with Republicans maintaining staunch support for Israel. The shifting narrative and growing sympathies for the Palestinian cause have not changed the conditions for Palestinians living under Israeli occupation or blockade. There is movement among the left wing of the Democratic Party towards pro-Palestinian sentiments, but it is not the predominantly held position in the party. These changes in Democrats' opinions may eventually affect policy. Looking ahead, the prospects for a two-state solution are uncertain. The current wave of violence and the deep-rooted political and territorial disputes make the path to peace challenging. Yet, as the world watches and sympathies shift, there is hope that international pressure and diplomacy might bring about a change. As we explore the current situation and future prospects, we realize the complexity of the Israel-Palestine conflict and the challenges that lie ahead in the quest for peace.